We've all been there, right? You're out, you desperately need your phone, and you see that battery icon turn red. Ugh, it's that sinking feeling. It's probably one of the most universal frustrations we all have now. But what if I told you that the way we use our phones every single day is actually making the problem so much worse? Okay, let's get into it.
Just think about this number for a second, 365. On average, that's how many times a year you plug in your phone. I mean, probably more for some of us. And every single time you do, you're kicking off a little chemical experiment inside that device in your pocket. And yeah, that experiment, it has consequences.
So here's the big question. Why? Why isn't charging just a simple top-up? Why does it feel like every single charge cycle steals a tiny little piece of your battery's life that you can never get back? Well, the answer is actually surprisingly simple. You just need the right analogy.
To really get what's going on, I want you to completely forget about tech for a minute. Seriously. Instead, just picture a plain old kitchen sponge.
Okay, so a brand new battery, it's like a fresh, fluffy sponge. You know, it can soak up a ton of water, or in our case, energy. But an old battery? That's like a sponge you've used and squeezed out 1,000 times. It gets all crusty and stiff and brittle, and no matter how long you soak it, it just can't hold as much water as it used to. That, right there, is your battery degrading.
So that's the simple version, right? The sponge. Now let's peek under the hood and see what's actually happening on a microscopic level every single time you plug your phone in.
All right, inside your phone's lithium-ion battery, you've basically got two sides. There's a positive side, called the cathode, and a negative side, the anode. When you charge your phone, you're using electricity to force these tiny little particles, lithium ions, to move from the positive side, swim through this liquid electrolyte, and pack themselves into the negative side. You can kind of think of it like pushing a whole bunch of balls uphill. You're storing all that potential energy for later.
And then, the moment you unplug your phone and start using it, all those little balls want to roll back downhill. It's at natural flow. They rush from the anode back to the cathode, and that flow of ions is the energy that powers your screen, your apps, everything. It's a really beautiful, elegant cycle. But, and there's a big but, it's not perfect.
Because every single time that cycle happens, a tiny bit of damage gets done. A sort of chemical rust starts to form inside. And this is the true villain of our battery story. Now, scientists have a fancy name for this stuff, the solid electrolyte interface layer, or SEI. But honestly, let's just call it what it is, battery gunk. With every charge, a microscopic layer of this gunk builds up on the anode. That's the side where all the lithium ions get stored.
And this gunk is a total killer for a few reasons. First, it's like quicksand. It traps some of those lithium ions so they can't move back and forth anymore. And fewer moving ions means less energy your battery can hold. Over time, all this buildup also causes real physical stress, creating these tiny microcracks. It's really just a slow, steady process of decay from the inside out.
So how does this microscopic gunk lead to huge, real-world problems? Oh, trust me, you've definitely felt the consequences. I mean, this slow decay is the #1 reason people feel like they have to upgrade their phones. It costs us a fortune and creates mountains of electronic waste. Perfectly good phones get tossed just because their little chemical fuel tanks have shrunk. And for you, personally, it's why your older phone might suddenly just shut down even when it says it has 20% battery left. And here's the real kicker. A weakened battery can't deliver a strong, steady flow of power. So to stop your phone from just crashing when you're doing something intensive, manufacturers will intentionally slow down the phone's processor. Yep, this is exactly what was behind the whole Batterygate scandal. It wasn't just to make you buy a new phone, it was a clumsy attempt to keep the old ones from randomly shutting off. Okay, so that's all the bad news. The good news is, now that we actually understand the science, we can fight back. There are some really simple things you can start doing right now to dramatically slow this whole process down.
First things first, let's bust a huge myth. You've probably heard that you should let your battery drain all the way down to 0 to calibrate it. Look, that was true for really old batteries, but for the modern lithium-ion ones in your phone, it's one of the worst things you can do. Draining it completely puts a ton of stress on the battery. The reality is, there's a sweet spot. Try to keep your charge somewhere between 20% and 80%.
But the single most important rule, and I mean more important than anything else, is this. Heat is your battery's absolute worst enemy. It's like pouring gasoline on a fire. It massively speeds up that chemical gunk buildup we were just talking about.
Get a load of this number, 40%. Just leaving your phone on the dashboard of a hot car can destroy up to 40% of its total battery capacity in just a few months. That's permanent damage. We're not talking about a temporary drop. It's gone forever. Heat is the silent killer.
So, look, if you remember nothing else from this, remember these two things. Try to keep your battery between that 20 and 80% zone, and keep your phone cool. It's that simple. Avoid fast charging it in a hot room, don't leave it baking in the sun, and maybe even take the case off if you notice it getting warm while it's charging.
You know, it really makes you think. Every single one of us is carrying around a tiny, kind of volatile and constantly decaying chemical power plant in our pocket. It works, for sure, but it's got this fundamental flaw. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question for the future. What's the next generation of fuel for our digital lives even going to look like? Hey, if you want to learn more about making your tech last longer and work smarter, make sure you subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks so much for watching.